Good afternoon. You're listening to Gambling with an Edge. Now here are your hosts, Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Bob Dancer.
And I'm Richard Munchkin.
Today our guest is Anthony Curtis, publisher of the Las Vegas Advisor and Huntington Press, and a frequent guest on this show. Anthony Curtis, welcome back to Gambling with an Edge.
Good to be here, guys.
All right. World Series is over. And Houston was in it.
I was thinking World Series of Poker. I was like, what happened?
Nope, that's not over yet. We will talk about that later.
That starts tomorrow. Yeah.
So the World Series of Baseball is over. Houston was in it. That probably means Mattress Mac was involved. And if so, that means Anthony Curtis and Frank B. were probably involved. So, Anthony, what happened?
Well, the Astros lost. Somebody sent me something today saying that one of the big sports betting groups in town had, at the start of the playoffs, had the Atlanta Braves rated as the worst team in the playoffs.
Wow.
And they went all the way and upset the Astros. So sure enough,
and my Dodgers along the way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just everybody that was in their way, man. But we worked again with Mack. He was hedging another giant promotion, and this was nothing like the one we did in 2019 that went all the way to the last game with the Nationals. They lost that one too. At that time, he came to us, his attorney actually, and then Mack came to us with a ridiculous amount of money to be hedged, like a $40 million liability, and everything had already started, so we couldn't get any good numbers. Well, we all learn, as we go along. And Mack came to us way back in July and said, I'm doing good on the promotion. The Astros are at 12-1. He goes, should I take it? We're like, that was our contribution. We went, yes. So, a lot of numbers are flying around out there.
This was June or July?
This was like end of June, beginning of July.
Uh-huh.
So I can give you the real numbers. They're not a secret. I'm seeing some misreported numbers and things out there. He bet in a series of about 3 or 4 different bets with different places. He bet $3.35 million to win a total of $35.6 million. So he missed a $35.6 million payday yesterday when they got knocked out. Now he was hedging. What he was hedging was 20 plus million in sales. So let's call it 25 million or somewhere around that. And so he was hedged up really well. Either way, he was going to come out pretty much the same. As it works out, he paid $3.35 million to insure $25 million, which is a pretty good rate for insurance. And it worked out well. I mean, he wanted to win badly. He loves the Astros, and I didn't really matter to me. I wanted to see him win.
Are the books much more amenable to him now because the first time it was hard for you guys to get down in the beginning, right? Yeah,
the first time everyone was so taken by surprise, and they were so confused, and they saw me involved and they saw Frank involved, and they were like, we don't want to bet, we don't want these guys action. And it took a long time for us to convince people that this was not sharp action. It wasn't sharp action. It was a good hedge. It was a good, strong hedge, but we were making negative expectation wagers, and the places that booked his action came out real well, and that word got around. So this year it wasn't so tough. But, they were willing to take his bet. The number was 12-1, which means they had an edge on the futures, on that futures wager, and they were happy to take it. And we didn't have to do much. Once he was lodged in there with $36 million payday, we don't have to do much. We looked at ways to lock in a profit, but he won't bet against the Astros. So he will not do it. We could have locked him in for $5 million more. He didn't want to do it. He will not bet against his team. So
wow.
There are some of us who think that winning $35 million one way and versus $25 million the other way isn't a wash.
Yeah.
Some of us low rollers think that there's a huge difference. So it would have been better for him monetarily if the Astros won, plus psychologically.
In a number of ways. I mean, when you really think about there are so many levels to this. By it going this way, he doesn't have to refund all that money. That's a hassle. To refund $25 million.
It's a hassle, but the advertising to his customers would be enormous.
Right. And you can even take it a step farther there. I mean, I agree. It would have been better for him to win the bet because that goodwill and that advertising and everything else would have been, I mean, on the face of it, when you really look at his margin and things like that, he did better this way. He did better by losing. But when you look at everything and all the different levels, he would have been better by winning that bet. Because not only would it been all that goodwill and advertising for the next time, but all of those people collectively are going to get back $25 million. That sounds like free money to them. So they bought a mattress, so why not get the full bedroom set, right? So why not get something for the living room? Why not? It's free money to them. So him winning would have been much better. But if you looked at it just in black and white, he actually comes out a little better by not having to refund.
It also would have been enormous just for the economy of the city of Houston.
Yeah. There would have been a whole bunch of different ways that would have been good. And so it was kind of sad for us to see it. But when we look at it just with our, just looking straight at it and what is the actual profit, we're supposed to hedge to a position, and that's what we did. And we were pleased with it. And it's really interesting for us to watch it and listen to it. People talking about it all over the United States and the world, really, about this big is better and what he's doing and what a brilliant strategy is and everything. And we just look at each other and go, hey, that's us. We're doing that. It's kind of, it feels good.
Is Mattress Mac just a once a year big gambler when Houston's involved in something, when the Houston team is involved, or does he gamble on other things too?
He likes to play, and he does make other bets. He made some really big Super Bowl bets that were not a part of a hedge a couple of years ago.
That weren't Houston.
No, they didn't go very well, for him. That was the year he bet against the Chiefs every year, and that was the year the Chiefs won it all. So that that wasn't good for him.
Worked well enough last year.
Yeah. And he did. He was on the other side. He was against the Chiefs again, and that was good, and that was part of a promotion. But we don't work with him in that capacity. We work with him on the hedges. But he'll call us and say, "What do you think of this? What do you think of that?" And we go, "We think you're gambling." And it's like, you want to gamble? Then gamble. I mean, it's all relative. He makes $1 million bet. Well, maybe that's a $100 bet for me. I don't know. And so he does a little bit of that. And I know that with all the things, he's not a dumb guy. And that's for sure. He's a great businessman. And he understands, what's behind the hedge and what we're doing. We don't have to convince him or explain it to him. So he's, betting big in other jurisdictions around the country while they're paying big sign-up bonuses and things like that. And he's taking advantage of those things. But he's pretty much on his own for those. And, he likes to play. Let's put it that way.
Well, a big sign-up bonus for, like, Draftkings is, a $5,000 free bet. For most of us, that will be a reason to go and do it. But if he's betting $1 million a hand or $1 million a week, a $5,000 free bet is pretty small change.
Well, once you get to the level that he is, and once you've got the background that he has, these are negotiated bonuses. So the bonuses he's getting scale, and they scale really well. And he's... and anyone can do that. Any high roller, any VIP, who's betting big. I mean, even if you're a really good player who's betting sizable amounts, you can negotiate. Because they want your action. Everybody's trying to get
just
action.
Like
right
the
now.
casinos,
right? It's the same thing. It's just an extension of it.
Well, not known sharps. If Spanky decided he's going to bet huge, but he wanted a big bonus,
I would be surprised. I'll bet he can get it. I'll bet he does. I don't know it for a fact, but I'll bet that he can, because I know others that are of his ilk that have been able to negotiate, and they're known to be good players, and they've been able to negotiate deals. That's the level of the competition.
That would shock me, because I thought basically they wouldn't take his action at all.
Oh, they'll take $10 a game.
Yeah, $10 a game, or him and Rufus and a lot of those guys.
I might be wrong. I mean, honestly, I don't know him well. I've met him, but I don't know him well. But I just know other guys that that are good players, and maybe not on their level of terms of how much they're betting, but they're reaping bonus money, in all the different venues when they open up. Colorado's a big venue. Mississippi was one. Jersey, Arizona. Of course. Arizona's the next one, the next big frontier. And what's the one that just opened? Two of them just
opened.
Louisiana.
Tennessee or Kentucky? Didn't one of them?
Tennessee was it was a while ago, but Louisiana and one other one. I can't remember. It'll come to me.
By any chance, has Huntington Press published anything recently?
Yeah. Yeah, we have. Want me to talk about them?
Yeah, sure.
That's kind of why we were asked you the question.
Okay.
Especially considering Bob is one of the writers. So
Right. So, so let's start with that one. We did a book called Love in the Dunes, and that is a compilation of essays from professional writers in
Short
Vegas.
stories, really.
Mm-hmm. Short stories, essays, however you want, poems. Some of them are poems. And every year, the city puts together this collection and brings it to us to put it into book form for them. And they're really good. We don't make much money on the book. It's not a gambling book, but it's sort of like pro bono. It's sort of pro bono work for us. We do it to be part of the community. And these are, really good professional writers and poets and things like that. And this year, one of the, there's usually 12 or 13. I think there were 13 this year, contributors. And one of them was Bob Dancer, who wrote a piece about playing video poker tournament with his one of his wives, not the current, but one of his wives' mother, correct?
Yes, this was about Shirley's mother, Virginia. And I had an advantage or a disadvantage compared to the others who contributed to the book, is that I didn't know if it was supposed to be fiction or nonfiction, or if there were any clues from the organizer of it. The organizer is an associate professor at UNLV. He's in the English department.
Jared Keene, yeah.
And he probably sent a lot of emails to people considering writing and said, this is kind of what he wants, and put it into here. And so I didn't get any of that. And so I have been taking a storytelling workshop with Richard. I'm much better than I used to be. I'm nowhere near Richard's level of storytelling, but Richard's a lot better now than he used to be too. And so these stories that we're telling and practicing are true stories where the storyteller is a key part of the story. This is not something that happened to his cousin's gardener. The storyteller is a key part. So I had one that I was kind of working on for that group. And then Anthony says, oh yeah, they might need another couple, and it's about love, and this is how many words they're supposed to be. Do you have anything? So I'm going, maybe. So the interesting video poker promotions and stuff happened between, in my life, 15 and 25 years ago. That's both, they were huge, and I was welcome to play. And I did well in them. So that convergence was, which made them interesting to me. Now, I was married to Shirley at the time. And that ended in late 2012, and now I'm with Bonnie, who I married in 2014. Now, since keeping Bonnie happy is a priority in my life, writing a love story about Shirley probably wouldn't help out on the home front very much. But writing a story about a lot of love shown to Shirley's mother, well, that was something Bonnie could get behind. And being nice, and I come out as a hero, sort of. And so that's where I directed the story. And it turned out to be a weekend that Shirley's mother will never forget.
Yeah, people who like gambling, people who like Vegas will like this collection. It's because it's all set in Vegas, almost all of it's set in Vegas or in casinos. Especially with this subject matter of love. Some of them are pretty racy. I mean, there's quite a bit of sex in this thing. There's a lot,
and not from Bob.
No,
which is surprising.
No, not.
No, my mother-in-law and I never got it on.
But I mean, a lot of swear words. I mean, when I read these, I'm like, really? These people are writing? I see these writers. They look like librarians, half of them, and I'm like, you're writing this stuff? But Bob's was. I'll probably embarrass him a little bit here, but Bob's was really tender. I really liked it because it really humanizes him. A lot of people think that he's a walking robot, and you can see that there's a human in there on this story. It's a good one, so it's worth reading. So that's the first one. The second one is a book called The 50 Greatest Stories in Poker History. And this was written by a writer who writes poker from Hungary. And they're just stories. They're 50 stories about, everything from the first poker game, the Dead Man's Hand, all the way to the poker playing computers that ended up just like Deep Blue did in chess. I think it was called Liberatus or something like that, was the computer that beat all the pros. There's stories about all the top
Stewie
guys.
Unger,
Negreanu, Doyle, Brunson.
I'm about halfway through it, and I mean it's kind of the perfect toilet book.
Yes, it is.
Like the stories are only 3 pages long, so
it's good. I mean, we wouldn't have published it if it wasn't good. So here's what I do when I get a submission. I look at it in 2 ways. First, I go, do we want this book? And if it's a great book, like your book and your book, like Dancer book and Munchkin book, yeah, that's fantastic. But some of them I look at it and go, do I want another gambling publisher to have this book? And this kind of, no offense to the author, but I mean, this is not a how-to book or anything else. And I was like, this is good enough. I don't want anybody else to publish this. So we published that one, and that one's out, and we're selling it now, and it's at Amazon and everything else. The third one was like,
before we get off of that book, I have read it, and of the 50 stories, I was quite familiar with 35, 40 of them, and a few of the details were new to me in those stories, but basically, I knew the stories. The last 10 or 15 were, I learned a lot. And one of the things about it, it seemed like a, sort of like a history book. Although at the beginning he says, this isn't a history book, it's a book about entertainment. So I'm going, you mean this might not be true? But so that bothered me a little bit. But I know more about several of the stories, and I've been reading about gambling for a long time. So although poker isn't my game.
As I said, I'm only halfway through it. But there were 2 things that I really liked so far. One was the famous story that most poker players have heard of between Johnny Moss and Nick the Greek, supposedly playing at the Horseshoe, and Moss winning a few $1 million, and Nick the Greek saying, I'm going to have to let you go at the end of it. And he brought up the fact that this is now in question whether this really happened. I like the fact that he knew that, that he brought it up, and that Jack Binion had kind of weighed in on it and said, yes, it did happen, but not at the Horseshoe, and it wasn't public. And so I really like that. He had done his homework more than most people who are writing about gambling. And the other one that was like that was Archie Karras. You see a lot of people writing the story about Archie Karras's famous run where he won all these millions of dollars, but he included the fact that Archie is now in the black book for cheating.
Right. Right.
So,
and he might be in jail. It's like he had jail time for his thing in
Verona. He got picked up in Southern California.
Yeah,
it's funny. That's where he ended up going down. But no, the author did a good job of researching, and he is very he's a student of it, and. Again, that's one of the reasons we took it too. We just wrote a promo piece for it, and we said just what you said, that many of these you'll be familiar with, and some of these will be new and edifying, and they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the ones that I knew about, there was a little bit in there that I had forgotten all the details because you do over time.
Did I mention his name? I keep saying the author. Martin Magyar is his name. So people will see it. This guy, he writes for certain poker periodicals as well. So it's good. He's a good writer. He's Hungarian, but he writes really well. I mean, it was a good one. The third one is real interesting to me. It's basically, we brought back out a famous book on sports betting. It's called Sharp Sports Betting. It was written by Stanford Wong. And most people will say it was the first really good sports betting book to hit the market. There aren't very many of them in general, these days. Like you can find, 30 blackjack books that are credible and good, maybe more.
Yeah.
You can't find, many sports betting books.
Every guest that we've had on that's a sports bettor, when we ask them, are there any books you recommend? That's always the first book they mention.
Yeah. And, Sharp Sports Betting, it was written in 1991, I think.
Wow.
And I was very Was it 91? I think it was.
I don't remember when it was, but I was 30 years younger when it came out.
Okay. And I obviously I used it, back then, but I hadn't looked at it in so long. And when we took over, we've taken over the title list from Huntington Press, which is Stanford Wong's books. So we'll be bringing back Professional Blackjack soon. We've got Tournament Strategy, Casino Tournament Strategies is out and available. And we brought this one back. And when I looked it over, I was like, wow, this is good. There's just really a lot of solid information. The only thing that's strange about it is that all of the examples are from 25, 30 years ago. But they're still accurate, and they still make sense. So it's a really good book. Anybody who's into sports betting, you pretty much got to read this book, I think, or you got to have it on your bookshelf. Yeah,
and some of it, like betting the teasers when they're so many points when you cross the good numbers, still works, although not as well as it used to be, because the sports book knows about this too now.
Well, they actually named them Wong teasers, when they crossed the 3 and the 7. So, he was famous for that. The blackjack guy was famous for, the Wong teasers. And he was the first guy to bring that out, actually, and at least in book form. So certain people knew about it, and he found out from them. But, then he did the research to validate it. And then quickly, coming out, everybody liked, a lot of people liked Then One Day by Chris Andrews. And he did a follow-up called Then One Year. And it's at the printer right now. And it's
actually, you were supposed to get him for us.
I will. But you know what? It's better when the book is out. And it's just better all the way around, and that's what he wants to wait for as well.
Oh, okay.
So, he will definitely be on.
We could have him twice, where the first time was about his first book, and the second time was about his second. He strikes me as somebody is very engaging, and
he's fun.
And like he was on the VSIN podcast a number of times. Yeah. And so.
All right. You're pressuring me on the air here. I'll take care of it. But then we also have, then the next one after that is going to be a couple books from James Grosjean.
They're after that?
Yep. They're about the Carney games and side bets and things like that.
So I guarantee we're going to get people in the comments section saying when. So do you have an ETA for when those may drop?
Yeah, we're working on them now. So I can tell you this about Grosjean. He doesn't take a very big edit. For one, he doesn't allow it. He doesn't want anybody fiddling with his stuff for the most part. But two, he's an extremely good writer. He is extremely good.
I'm so happy he's blogging again because he's really funny.
Yeah. He's one of the finest writers in the gambling field. He's just absolutely one of the finest writers. He has all this credit for his math abilities, but boy, he can get the words down. He's really good. So I don't think it's going to take that long. Once we get it started, they move pretty quickly, and we've gotten it started, and it just won't be a big edit. I'll breeze through it. I'll put a mark here and there, and that's it.
All right. Now, Richard mentioned the World Series of Poker. Now Phil Hellmuth got his 16th and almost his 17th bracelet. Mm-hmm. What have you heard about the World Series of Poker this year?
A couple of things. The Hellmuth story is big. 16 bracelets, that's just amazing.
Yeah, you can only really wear 4 at a time.
Yeah, really. Well, his ego is big enough. He can probably do it. But I'll say something about Phil in a minute, about the way he plays. But do you guys know what's the total is for second?
Yeah, there's 10.
10, yeah. 3 guys have 10.
And
that's Doyle Brunson,
who's
Phil
retired.
Phil Ivey.
Who's not retired.
Wait, Doyle Brunson's at the World Series. I saw his picture.
Yeah, he actually does show up. He did play one.
I just saw his picture on Twitter yesterday that he's there, yeah.
He's mostly retired, though. He hardly plays at all. So, yeah, well, Doyle Brunson's got 1. He's got 10. Phil Ivey's got 10. And Johnny Chan. Those 3 guys have 10. And Hellmuth's got 16. That's pretty amazing. But, I'll say this about Hellmuth.
And 16, where he's playing now against huge fields, is a bigger accomplishment than when Doyle Brunson won his back against 200 opponents or against 300.
I'm pretty sure. I know the latest one came with a field of about 240. So what these guys do when they compile these these big records is they're willing to put up $5,000 and $10,000 entry fees and more, and they play against short fields because for them they have the money or they have the backing, and it's all about the bracelets for their legacy and all. So I'm not saying that he's not good. I mean, that's what I wanted to say when we did the.
You just ask him; he'll let you know.
Oh, he'll tell you. He'll tell you how good he is. When we played the elimination blackjack tournaments, and the whole marketing strategy was to bring in the big poker names. So Phil was one of them, among many others. Andy Duke, several others, and at first none of them could play. At first they were all terrible playing blackjack tournaments. They just were terrible. And it's kind of funny. I was on a table with Phil, and at one point he said to me, I was just looking at him and thinking in my mind, "You don't have a clue, dude." And he looks at me, honest, and he goes, "I'm playing these pretty good now, aren't I, Anthony?" And I looked at him, I went, "Yep, Phil, you are." Pretty good, aren't you, Anthony? Yeah,
well, that kills the chance Phil's going to come back on this show.
But what I'm going to say is, boy, did he get better. And did he learn? And did he study? And did he get good at it? The two best, in my opinion, the two best players from the poker world in those blackjack tournaments were him and Annie Duke. They both. Annie was probably best. She was terrific.
Andy Block can't be a slouch at it.
I don't count Andy as being, as a poker guy, because he was playing blackjack tournaments long before. So, Andy was definitely very good. But I'm saying of the ones who were pure poker and then learned it. And Phil's just got that kind of mind for tournaments and contests and all, and he got really good by the time it was over. The other thing, okay, so we're talking World Series. Occupancy is down, like most people predicted it would be. I thought it would be way down. It is. It's about 30% down from what it was.
You have to be vaccinated to play, right?
You have to be vaccinated to play. And that's another thing obviously that's affecting things. The travel restrictions are affecting things because so many of the international players, there used to be hundreds, if not thousands, of Russians that would play. They would come over from Russia and play. And they're not here, but they will be for the main event, which starts November 4th after this show drops. And the travel restrictions have been relaxed, and they're expecting a lot more people to come from foreign nations, and they think that the numbers will be up for the main event. So we'll see. But what that also is doing, it's creating a problem with dealers, in that there's a strange duality here, in that the players have to be vaccinated, but when they play, they don't have to wear masks. But the dealers do not have to be vaccinated, but they must wear masks. So it's the other way around. And I think, and part of the thinking on this is that one of the reasons the dealers don't have to is, well, one is that Caesars doesn't have a mandate that they do, but they didn't want to put that in because they're having trouble getting dealers to do this. They're having a lot of problems with dealers who have never dealt big tournaments before.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that but so many businesses are having trouble filling staff. Restaurants are closed some days because they don't have enough staff.
There's two problems. It's the work staff and supply chain. And the lead of the current Las Vegas Advisor was called Chain Reaction, and it was about the supply chain and how it affects Vegas, and it is affecting Vegas. Places are having trouble getting booze. Certain bars. We wrote the Crown and Anchor doesn't have Crown, and it's true. And Miller's Bar doesn't have Miller beer, and it's true. I mean, these were two honest, examples. And we asked them why. What's the problem? And they're like, we can't get it. It's the supply chain. So the two big problems are the supply chain and the workforce. And that's hitting the World Series is part of everything that's happening in Vegas. From these things that are knock-on effect from COVID, from the pandemic.
Now, you can't wear disguises in the World Series, but presumably players can wear masks for COVID reasons, which is a fairly effective disguise over a large part of your face. Mm-hmm. Do you know if many players were doing this?
I don't know for sure, but I've heard anecdotally that a lot are. To help to disguise for tells, that sort of thing. Because a lot of these guys, especially the young kids, they would wear these hoodies and pull the hoods right over their face when they were, trying to not give up anything to certain players who are really good tell players.
The Unabomber look.
Yeah, exactly. He was way ahead of his time, right? That was Phil Lack. So I've heard that a lot of players are playing with masks. but I don't know really what the percentages are or anything like that.
All right. So we're going to be back with Anthony Curtis. But first we have to take a commercial break. The South Point has more than 10,000 games returning at least 99%. This is more such games than anyone else has. In November, earn up to 10 $50 Walmart cards at half price. Normally $8,334 earns $25 in cash or free play. This month you can exchange points earned in November for $50 Walmart cards. You do not keep your points. This makes their 0.3% slot club effectively worth 0.6% for the first 83,000 and some in coin in. On Thanksgiving, there's a $32,000 hot seat promotion from 8 a.m. to midnight every hour. 20 lucky players with their card in win $100 in free play. On Thursday, November 11th, Veterans Day, active duty military or military veterans with appropriate ID and one guest receive a free buffet, lunch or dinner. This is generous on the part of the South Point, and the lines are huge. And it's a decent buffet. It is the cheapest buffet in town, but it's a quality meal.
Hey guys, this is Colin from BlackjackApprenticeship.com, and if you're serious about card counting, I'd encourage you to check out the Blackjack Apprenticeship membership. It has the training tools you'll need to beat the game, like our comprehensive video course and our training suite, so you can learn each skill and virtually test yourself before ever stepping foot in a casino. It also includes the tools you'll need to succeed, like our pro betting software, casino database, results tracking software, and access to a community of like-minded Advantage players to network with in our members forum and chat room software. You can find out more at blackjackapprenticeship.com.
Videopoker.com is the best place to play lots of games. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get correction on most of the games. The game of the week is Bonus Streak Ultimate X. This is a 10 coins per line version of the game. Like every other Ultimate X game, you earn multipliers on this hand to be played off next hand. Unlike regular Ultimate X, the multipliers are much harder to get. For example, you need 3 of a kind instead of jacks or better to get a multiplier. But when you get them for several hands in a row. The Wizard of Odds has worked out and published a strategy for the 8-6 jacks or better 10-play version of this game. This is a generous gift to the player community. This game, however, only returns 98.74% when played perfectly, and about 0.1% less using the Wizard Simplified strategy. Except for unusual slot clubs and promotions, this is way too low for profitable play. I don't blame the Wizard for picking out a low-playing game to analyze. This game was created during a period where IGT was not letting games over 99% on its floor. That has changed, and now some of the new games coming out by videopoker.com are in excess of 99%. So this is not anymore about the commercial, but since we just talked about IGT, the former head of IGT, Charles Mathewson, passed away earlier this week. And I knew him. I liked him. I barely knew him. But he is a major voice in the gambling community in Las Vegas, and was for a long time.
Yeah, I had very sparingly. I had dealings with him, or with his, during his tenure, and he was really influential. I can tell you that. I mean, he was the boss. So yeah, he was a big name.
So if you go on YouTube, you will see players gambling for lots of money. Apparently, not playing with an edge at all, but getting paid a lot by either YouTube or the casinos for doing that and bringing in customers or viewers. Do you know anything about this, Anthony?
Sure. I've watched these guys for a long time. It's different for different people. It scales, some guys get started, and girls. There are men and women who do this. And if they don't have a name, they've got to gamble with their own money. And if it's not exciting enough, people aren't going to watch. So I know that some of these people have taken positions, to be able to go and gamble and try to build their YouTube channel. Once you're there, you're making it on both ends. The casinos will pay you, and they'll give you a stake is what they'll do. And so, X amount of money to play at this $25 machine or whatever. But they also make a lot of money off their channel. And, we do a YouTube channel, and I know what you make on those. And so, I don't really mind working for $1.50 an hour. It's okay. I mean, $1.50. I don't mean $150. But, I'm making a joke. You don't make a lot of money until you have a really big channel.
Well,
but once you do, you do well.
Yeah. Gambling with an Edge is on YouTube, and we make literally dozens of dollars.
Dozens, yeah.
So.
Per week.
Right. So you guys know. But I mean, when you get to these really high levels, these people are pulling in. I know that the top YouTube channel guys are making $1 million a year. And I don't mean necessarily.
Oh, you mean streamers?
Doing other things.
Because the top YouTube guys are making 7 figures a month.
Probably.
I mean, not in the gambling world. I'm talking about, the top channels.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So these guys that have, the Brian Christophers and these kind of people, they're getting it both ways. They're making money on their YouTube channels and Facebook, whatever it is they're doing, but they're also being, they're being staked pretty much most of the time. Now, I can't say, because I don't know the guy, I can't say it's 100%, but I know some of these people that have told me, they get staked by the casinos to go when they go in.
We had one of these guys on from Sweden, and in Europe, they also have the benefit of being able to promote online casinos where they're getting affiliate money, which is huge.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And what's crazy is the way that these guys, their followers just put so much stake in them. They believe them that these guys can find good machines and that they're better at slots than others. I mean, there's one guy that says that, and they give strategies. He says, you've got to turn the volume on the machine as high as it will go. And that will give you the best payouts. Well, that's absurd. It has nothing to do with one another, but people believe it. And they ask me that, is it true? I'm like, it's absolutely categorically not true. There's nothing.
But the true part is it won't hurt you.
No, it won't hurt your ears. Maybe, yeah. No, it's true. It won't hurt you. But the point is, there's a lot of bad information being purveyed by these guys. And it's not all bad, but a lot of it's bad. And I've seen it. I've watched some blackjack players play live stream. And typically they're actually very good basic strategy players. They're definitely not counting. I'm counting along with them. They're not moving their bets with the count in any way. But they're, they know basic strategy. So they're competent players, but they're certainly not expert level. You know what I mean? But that's the reputation they have because of what they do on YouTube. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, it's about personality.
Personality is it. That's why I ain't never going to make it. That's what it's all about. I ain't never going to make it. By the way, I remember it's Florida. Florida is the one that is now live sports betting at the Seminole casinos. The reason I couldn't remember it is because who'd ever thought Florida was ever going to get there, because there's so many legal entanglements with the Indians there and all. But as of right now, there's all kinds of injunctions to try and stop them and all and everything. But as of right now, Florida is taking live bets at, I think, 3 casinos throughout the state.
Oh, but not an app.
I believe it is. I believe that it's being booked by those casinos, but I believe it's online.
Oh, wow.
So, getting back to being able to go to these different jurisdictions. And remember this, we're talking about Spanky and all that. You don't necessarily have to do this stuff in person. You don't necessarily have to use your own name. There's a few ways to get around this that guys are using.
Well, most of the apps, you have to be in the state.
Usually.
and you need to provide an address, which can be anywhere, and they apparently look you up to see if your name is actually associated with that address, and if not, they make you they turn their app into a camera and make you show ID and the copy of a medical bill or insurance paper, or there's a list of things with your name and address dated within the previous couple months. So there are limitations. Now, of course, that doesn't ask who your friends are and who's actually behind you on this.
Right. There's ways around it.
There are places that want you to scan your face, like move the camera like from one ear around your face to the other, so that you're not like holding the camera in front of a photograph of somebody or whatever.
Wow. I haven't encountered that yet, but
But it's still way better than the online casinos, the offshore casinos, because they can get ridiculous and just take forever to pay you, and so this is way better in my book.
It's just when we're talking about sports betting, it's just for the time being and for the next couple of years probably, it's just a really good situation for people who know what they're doing. And we haven't even got the big ones yet. We don't even have California. Florida's a big one.
Texas.
There are several yet to come. Florida's a good one. And New York, if New York could get their act together for, online wagering, remote wagering, that's going to be huge too. But they keep stepping on themselves over there. All kinds of problems in New York and legal problems in Florida right now.
Yeah, I'm waiting for California. It's for anybody who lives in Vegas. It's not a very far drive to Barstow or something and get down at least for the sign-up apps.
Not even that. You just 45 miles and go over the border. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, that little place where they sell the lottery tickets by Whiskey Pete's,
which may or may not work in Arizona. Many of them didn't work till you got at least 25 miles into the state. And so if it's close to the border, they would not recognize it.
That could be. Yeah, there's those border things when they're close. Plus, there's all the big mountains right there, which might, get in the way.
But
literally.
Barstow is what, 90 miles?
Baker's 89, so that's closer than Barstow's.
Baker's a big thermometer.
Yeah,
yes,
world's largest.
You can stick that thermometer into your sports betting app. Okay, now recently I was in New Orleans, and they have an interesting face mask thing in the casinos and elsewhere in town. On the Friday before Halloween, the mayor decided you didn't really need masks anymore, but almost every establishment required proof of vaccination or having a recent test to get in. Mm-hmm. Now, certainly a number of places in the French Quarter and definitely the casinos required that kind of information. But you don't have to wear a mask anymore, which struck me as weird. Las Vegas, you still have to wear masks in the casinos. Some casinos are better at enforcing that than others, but I have never been asked for proof of vaccination in Las Vegas, other than if you want to go into Allegiant Stadium to watch the Raiders or UNLV play.
I went to a play last weekend, and they required proof of vaccination. The one thing I have to say is I went to Resorts World last week or the week before, and I had not been there prior. And, they have self-parking, which is free, but it's a bit of a hike. And I got to the front door and realized, I forgot my mask. But I was happy to see they have a stand right inside the door with boxes of masks. Yeah. So you don't, if you forget yours, they have them there for you.
A couple of things. Resorts, there's 2 parking garages there. And I know what you're talking about. The first one, the obvious one, is you have to walk like, 30 yards or something, 20,
Oh,
30
no,
yards.
A
much-
lot
much-
more like
Maybe
100 yards.
it
More
might
like
be.
200, yeah.
It's a long way. But if you pass that and you go to the next street and turn in, which is called Resorts World Avenue, I believe, there's a second parking lot that is affixed to the hotel. So
It has a sign that says hotel parking.
yeah, and it's the same thing. It's open to the public, and
I
you
didn't
go right.
know
to,
if you would need like a room key
Nope.
to. Oh, well,
No,
that's
it's-
good to know.
yeah, it's for public parking on that one.
So I took my wife. Once I went there and I saw the marketplace. My wife wanted to go eat there, and she wanted to go for breakfast. In many places, dim sum is breakfast food.
Really?
But anyway,
I
it
thought it was
turns out
lunch.
they didn't open until 11 o'clock, which we were there too early. So
But you can still eat breakfast at 11.
yeah, but we were there too early. We didn't want to wait around for an hour for.
Here's another crazy thing about Resorts World that struck me. How many casinos do you know with water fountains? Think about it. Almost none. And Resorts World has 5 or 6 of them placed all around the outer perimeter, which really strikes me funny because now people aren't buying drinks as much if you can drink water, but they're literally giving away water at Resorts World. That's odd because of it's such a pricey place and all the things that they're doing. But that's another kind of strange thing about that place.
The other thing I would say about it was the tables were empty. There were
So
some
I've heard,
people
yeah.
in the slot areas and stuff, but the table games were just empty.
Well, back to your mask thing, and vax, masks and vax. Vax, it's hard to say. No, there's no place, no casino I know of, not one, that requires any kind of vaccination or proof of negative test. But every single one of them still requires that you wear a mask when you go through the door. And then once you, almost in most places except Boyd, once you're inside, almost nobody seems to care if you take it off, especially if you're sitting somewhere. Boyd's really a stickler, though, that you keep them
At the
on.
South Point, if you're playing without a mask or walking through, and unless you're actively drinking something or smoking, they will come around and hand you a mask or ask you to put it on. I haven't seen them throw anybody out, and I haven't seen any players get really belligerent about it. But I have to assume that happens some of the time.
Actually, you bring up a good point. Something's going on with smoking, right? Some of the casinos are now no longer allowing smoking on the table games.
Yeah, there's a movement. And I mean, the most recent is, there's always areas, but the most recent is Sam's Town's no smoking on any table games. Now, that might be happening in some other places, but apparently it's not at all Boyd properties, but Sam's Town for sure. So, yeah, there's all kinds of different, we talked about the knock-on effect from COVID. It's all over the place. UNLV just announced that you can't go to a UNLV basketball game without vaccination proof. So there's another one like Allegiant that, is requiring that.
Now, immediately after the show airs on Thursday, they're starting Draftkings is having a sports betting championship. So are you participating in this, Anthony?
Yes. This is they call it the National Championship, the National Sports Betting Championship, something like that. And this is the one that they ran a couple of years ago that had so many problems that they ran it. You had to be in New Jersey. You had to fly there if you didn't live there. And
You could drive. That was allowed.
Yeah, you could do that too. Well, we weren't going to drive from Vegas. But Frank B. and I went and played it. And there were lawsuits and everything because a bunch of people got shut out. They couldn't process the bets fast enough, the results fast enough, and guys who were in contention got shut out. And there were all kinds of problems. So this is the second time they're coming back. They've got a whole bunch of different rules. Now it's a $10,000 tournament. $5,000 is the entry fee. $5,000 is live money that you bet with. So you're betting into live lines. What else is different is that you had to be in New Jersey the first time, and now you can play in any one of 6 or 7 states where DraftKings is. So you can play, I think, in Colorado, maybe Mississippi, I'm not sure, but you don't have to be in New Jersey.
Probably Arizona.
Yeah, yes. Arizona, I think almost for sure.
Probably Colorado.
Right. And, but we're playing in New Jersey because this is interesting because the rules aren't exactly the same for everybody at every different state. You can do certain things. You can make certain bets in Jersey that you can't make in other places.
Do you have a for instance on that?
I sort of do, which I wouldn't mind talking about on the next thing. The only reason I'm telling you now is that there's because I don't think anybody would have enough time after listening to this show to all of a sudden say, I'm going to go play in Jersey.
This show drops 4 p.m. Pacific on Thursday, and it starts on Friday morning.
Yes, and it's almost impossible. I mean, the hoops they make you jump through to sign up are unbelievably ridiculous. I'll be honest. Frank and I were both going to enter, and I could not get signed up. There was a something akin to an early entry bonus, which is also no longer available, and where you would get 1,000 back if you entered by X time. And I spent a day and a half trying to do it. I could not get entered. I could not get my money in. I would ask question after question to their help, their help desk, and they didn't even understand the questions I was asking. They couldn't answer it. We couldn't get our second one in. So Frank and I we only have the one in the one entry. But it's part and parcel with the whole thing. There's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of frustration as everybody kind of learns, feels their way around these things. But I'm sure that all the hot shots are going to be there. I'm sure it's going to be a big tournament. It's not going to be the overlay that the first one was. The first one was a gigantic overlay that everybody wanted to play. This won't be that, but we think there's a lot of value in it, so we're playing it.
Should be a good social thing too, I would think, right? If everybody's going to be there.
Well, the first one was the greatest social thing because everybody got together for this big party that ran like throughout the whole thing. And we only went to the party one night and we saw a whole bunch of people we knew, it was really cool. But we had like a command center set up in an Airbnb. We must have had 6 computers in there, all the different things we were doing. Diamond Mike, who's been on the show, was there with us. He's also working with us on this one too. And we were. Did
he get an entry? Does he have an entry?
No, we just said that we were going to go with 2, and then we couldn't get the second one in, so we didn't go for a third one. There's just no way. But despite all of our best efforts, we played it like donkeys, and we just didn't do well. We'll play this one better for sure.
Well, you didn't play it like donkeys. You had significant. Had Kansas City not, had they covered, you would have had very good results, and it was a close game and went at offsides.
Let's put it this way: where we were in that, we recovered fast enough. We knew that we had a chance at the end on the third day or second day. We absolutely had a chance if we had a long shot parlay that would have put us where we needed to go. But we you hate to give advice, but we dribbled off a little bit too much money. We dribbled off trying to do slick things that didn't make any sense. So we learned our lesson.
Very good. Anthony, it's always a pleasure having you on the air. Thank you.
Thank you.
At the end of our shows, we have a recommended section. So, Richard, why don't you start us out?
Well, I have a twofer today. So the first is a novel by Thomas Wolfe called Bonfire of the Vanities. This is a very old book, but it's a really good book. And from this really good book, they made a really terrible movie. So the second book is one of the best books.
You can tell us anything about Bonfire of the Vanities, or just the fact
just it's a great book. It is a novel, but it's a really, really well-written novel. But, so they made this movie.
Tom Hanks?
Yeah, with Tom Hanks. Yeah. And it was a train wreck from the very beginning. And for some reason, they allowed this reporter to follow them around from the very beginning. And I think they kind of forgot that she was even there. And so she was able to write this book about this total train wreck of a movie being made and all the millions of dollars that were wasted. And so if you are at all interested in the inside story of how movies get made, It's a really, really excellent book.
What's it called?
It's called The Devil's Candy.
Oh, okay.
So Bonfire of the Vanities is 25, 30, 40 years old.
Yeah, and this is, I don't know, 25 years old or whatever.
So the book came out.
The book came out after the movie came out, yeah.
But reasonably at the same, or only a couple of years later.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, one of the best books about Hollywood that I've ever read, so.
Very good. My recommended is the second collaboration between Bill Clinton and James Patterson. It's called The President's Daughter. It's the second thriller by these two with entirely new characters. In this book, President Mack Keating loses a bitter election for his second term to his former vice president, and he goes into retirement. A group of Arab terrorists kidnapped Keating's 19-year-old daughter, and the rest of the book is about trying to get her back alive, with the current administration not cooperating very much. There's a lot of inside knowledge that only an ex-president can have. I found the book fascinating.
You guys are so scholarly, with these books and all of this stuff. And I'm going to talk about a show on the Strip, I mean... look, one of the things that's run away when you talk about inflation on the Las Vegas Strip, the prices are up obviously over a decade ago and before then by so much, but shows, unbelievable. I mean, there was a time when there was one show with a $100 ticket, that was Siegfried and Roy. And then we would report in the LVA every year how many new shows there were with $100 tickets, and it took forever. Now you almost can't find one that doesn't have a $100 ticket. And it's not even that they're raising the prices a discount, because the discounts aren't always available. But anyway, I get to, because we do the advisor, I get to go to press openings a lot. And I do. I take advantage and I go to them. And I saw one the other day I was shocked. I had no expectations for this whatsoever. It's called iLuminate. And it's at the Strat, which used to be the Stratosphere. It's now officially the Strat. And this is it's not a variety show. It doesn't have a juggler. It doesn't have a comedian. It doesn't have anything. It's simply canned music and dance. But the dancing is so amazing. It's so good. There's no theme. It's like skit after skit. But here's the kicker is they're illuminated with LED lights. And there's all different switches. So at different times, as they're doing these routines, they perform in the dark on the stage with the lights going on and off. So all of a sudden there's dancing and a guy's got no head. Or all of a sudden it's just arms and legs. And what's really cool about it is you see these dancers flying through the air at these different times. And you just assume there's hoists and pulleys and things like that. But it's not. It's the other dancers in black cloth without being illuminated that are picking them up and carrying them around. Every once in a while you can get a glimpse of it so you know what's going on behind the scenes. So I think the show, the entertainment value was great. But what makes it even better is two other things. One is the price. All right, it starts at $64, which is good, but you can get a Groupon or other ones for as low as $43 a ticket. And we've got that Groupon. We got the link right on our website, right on LasVegasAdvisor.com. So you can see that show for $43. The other thing is the Strat is amazing for accessibility. It's just so easy to get into and out of. And lots of times I have visitors come in who want to go to a show, and I don't want to just because I don't want the hassle of parking and going to a show and everything else. At the Strat, you go right into the parking lot. It's free. You go right into the casino, up to the showroom, and you're in. So the accessibility, the price, everything else. It's called iLuminate. Great show at the Strat.
That was pretty scholarly, don't you think, Richard?
Hip hop dancing, yeah.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Richard. Go out and hit lots of royal flushes, everybody. Good day.